Welcome to Real Health with me, Karl Henry. Folks, as we get older, aging well becomes less about appearance and more about strength, mindset and independence. Journalist Clare Johnston explores exactly that through her YouTube series, Rebuilding Mum and Dad, where she documents her parents' journey to better health and better mobility. After decades in journalism, Clare shifted her storytelling skills into thoughtful, long-form content, showing, not telling, what it really means to live well at every age. Clare from Edinburgh, welcome. How's it going?
Thank you very much. It's going very well, thank you. Delighted to be here.
I came across your YouTube channel and your mission around aging and aging health about 2 months ago. And I have to say, I'm so just bowled over by it. The content, the messaging in it is so important for everyone of any age to look at and to take on board. Where did the idea come from?
Well, originally, I mean, as you mentioned, thank you for the decades in journalism. I am in my 50s now, and I'll allow it. Um, Originally, when I was working in journalism and producing digital content for news publishers, I had this notion. I always loved writing features and writing about people's transformations and their health transformations. That really fired me up. And at the back of my mind, there was always this little seed, like, I wish I could do this for myself on my own platform one day. And I hadn't quite figured it out. And then just by chance, I was doing a digital development job for a news group, and we decided to try a few product reviews on the website. And my husband is very good at filming and editing, so we produced them in our own time at home, just as a little trial. And we made a few of them. And then when I left that publisher to go freelance for a while, I put them up on YouTube. And they were just like little household reviews and, skincare and that kind of thing. And I left them, and then my eldest son a few months later said, "Mum, those videos have got a few thousand views." And that was what really started the YouTube channel. And at that point, I mean, I'm going back 7, 8 years, I thought, well, YouTube is just about reviews and how-tos. So we did a review every month. But as I got older and the lines started to appear and all the rest of it, I got more interested in skincare, and I took it down that route of kind of looking good as we age. And then, of course, as I started interviewing experts and getting into the science of it, the reality dawned on me that, look, this is a head to toe job. This is aging from within. And what does it mean to age well? And that kind of the superficial side of it kind of slid away as I got more and more connected with just wanting to improve my own health and life chances and quality of life as I got old. And obviously with my parents who are in their 80s living next door, that was really front and center of mind for me as well. How do I help them? And that was really where it all grew from.
And what did they say when you approached them? I want to make a YouTube channel of you getting older and getting stronger.
Well, the YouTube channel was already there. So I started the Honest channel 7 years ago. And the series I've done is called Rebuilding Mum and Dad. So that's a series within the channel.
Okay.
But if people Google Rebuilding Mum and Dad, the playlist will come up for them. That's the easiest way to find it. So my parents had kind of followed what I was doing. I was interviewing a lot of experts who had particular interests in different aspects of healthy aging. And I was also starting to interview people who could really show us what it was to age well. So 73-year-old bodybuilders and, people who were just great, doing really well for their age to get their secrets. And along the way, I had spotted this viral video on Instagram of a lady who was 97 in Cincinnati, and she had improved her bone density through weight training. And the guy standing next to her in that viral video was her coach, Chris Reese. He now coaches my parents because I saw that video and thought, I must speak to this guy. And so I interviewed Chris on my channel, and he explained how he routinely works with older people and they see these massive improvements in their health, their mobility, their well-being. They stay independent for longer. There's this 98-year-old Nurse Hershey who she's still weight training and doing fantastically well. I thought, if you can rebuild your bone strength at 97 years of age, then my parents in their early 80s can do it, because my mum had been diagnosed with osteoporosis. I showed them the interview and they didn't need persuading. I said, look, I'm going to do this for myself. I am going to buy a barbell rack and start training in my garage. They live right next door. So I said, do you want to join me? Um, and we recruited Chris to help them train. And they started in January this year, and the results, as you've seen, have been nothing short of transformational. And it has now given me this bug. I've seen this happen for my parents, and I am just desperate to share it with the world and say to people, most of us can control how we age. We have a choice. We don't have to get frail and sick. We can build muscle and give ourselves a really good shot at the future and living our lives, a quality of life for life.
And bring our listeners and viewers through some of the transformational changes that your mum and dad have seen over the course of what is a very short time frame, which is brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, if I start with my dad, he a couple of years back had a hernia operation, and he was very upset about it afterwards. It took a little while to recover. He had complications in his recovery, and he had always prided himself on being very sort of active. He's real into DIY and always sort of charging around, and that shook him a bit. And I think he felt, at that stage he was turning 80, and I think he felt the decline setting in. You could sort of see him starting to worry about aging. And I did not like to see that with my dad. It was not like him. So when he started strength training, he had been told by his doctor when he got the hernia surgery, look, this is due to muscle weakness, basically, as you age. And when he was told he could do something about that, and he started to lift weights, he took to it like a duck to water. So my dad, in 9 months, has actually gone from never lifted a weight before formally to now in kind of almost elite strength for his age group. He lifts over 200 pounds. He lifted 93 kilos the other day, deadlifting from the floor. And he's just, the confidence has come back. As he says, he no longer fears aging because he's getting more capable in everyday life rather than less. So that has just been wonderful to see. My mum's story is even more dramatic. I mean, my mum at the start of this year was quite frail. We didn't like to say that to her, but everybody was worried about her. Her mobility was very poor. She walked with a stick, but she couldn't really walk for more than about 30 seconds before her back would hunch over and she would become out of breath and in pain. She had been told that she'd lost 80% of the muscle in her back.
Wow.
And like she described it to me, she said, it's just like the elastic's gone. There was nothing to hold her back up. And she was very low about it. I mean, because she had been given physio years before and they'd given her these resistance bands and she did everything. They had a rowing machine, they had a climbing machine. We tried everything, but it was just too powerful, the muscle loss for her. However, inspired by the interview with Chris, she gave it a go. And in just within a few months, we noticed a difference with her walking. She was able to walk for a couple of minutes unaided. And then just back in about a month ago, I filmed her. I took her out for a walk on our path near our house, recorded her, and she walked fast for 6 minutes unsupported. Now, if you see her, back in January, when her balance was even going as she walked, and there she was striding down the path. And the only reason she stopped really was because she's not used to walking, um, in that way at that speed. So she got a little bit out of breath and she just stopped. But the transformation was unbelievable. And she can open bottles no problem now, and she can stand up and wash her hair in the shower, which that was becoming problematic for her. I think probably we didn't realize how unsafe the world was becoming for my mum. She has her balance back, and she's just growing and literally in stature and confidence about her life and her future too. So it's just been nothing short of miraculous, to be honest, to see it. And as I say, I want to do everything I can to share the potential with other people and to say it's never too late.
Because it is that, isn't it? As we get older, it's that loss of independence, that sense of fear, that when the balance goes, your strength goes. Simple daily tasks become harder, and then people
Yeah.
stop doing them, and it's that kind of cycle of aging that people get
Yes.
into.
Yeah, we assume, and society has told us that aging means frailty. And I've had a few comment. Most people, I mean, some of the videos have reached millions and millions of people, and the comments have been 99.9% so supportive. But sometimes people will say to me, "Why did you let them get to that stage in the first place?" And you think, well, we didn't know. And I don't know now. I'm like, why on earth is this not a thing? Like, why did nobody think of this earlier? And there are people like you doing a brilliant job in trying to spread that message. But the reality is, I think we all thought we reach a point in life of no return. When you're in your 80s, if you're frail, you can't reverse frailty. But we have. That's exactly what gaining muscle can do, and we can all regain it, which is fantastic. It's such a positive message, and we don't have to become frail. So it's been something of a revelation to us.
We have a professor here in Trinity called Professor Roseanne Kenny, and she did a Tilda study on aging. We've had her on the show a couple of times.
Mm.
And her big line is that as we get older, we need to move more as opposed
Yes.
to moving less. That we have potentially more time on our hands than we have in our 30s or our 40s or our 50s for that matter. And that we should be moving more as we're going through the aging process, as opposed to what is a socio norm, which is that we move less as we get older because we're
Yeah.
afraid of things. And like yourself, myself, strength training is every conversation you have with her. It is around strong strength training, bone density, bone strength, and weightlifting is a key component to that. But people are still they're still a bit scared of lifting weights, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I hear that a lot as well. I do hear people saying that's not safe for your parents to do. And I think people don't realize how unsafe it is to have very little muscle. It makes, as you said earlier, everyday tasks, actually like getting out of the car and walking down steps, things become unsafe. So lifting weights, when done in the right way, and my parents started very light. And I think the beauty of the barbell system that they use is we have these fractional weights where we're only adding a single kilo, sometimes half a kilo every week. So they are always progressing in strength. They are always building muscle, but they're doing it very slowly. And that means they've never had a strain. And although my dad is lifting quite heavy now, my mum is actually able to deadlift 43 kilos from the
Wow.
floor at the moment. Yeah, at 82. She started on 11 kilos from halfway up a frame rack. So she couldn't even lift from the floor. And that's in 9 months that she's made that progress. So it's very, very possible, very achievable. It has to be done safely. And the reality is there isn't enough access. I mean, my parents were able to do this because they could just walk next door into the garage of my home, and I do this with them. We need to make it more accessible to people because we have a golden opportunity, I think, here to change the health of our aging populations, and it would make dramatic differences to our health and social care services, but it would also dramatically improve people's lives and their quality of life and their health. I think there's a misunderstanding with muscle. We know, I think most people can wrap their heads around the fact that it will help with balance and being able to do everyday tasks and prevent falls, which is so important. Um, as you mentioned, it improves bone strength because the muscles pull on the bone. The bone responds to that. But also, like what we describe as metabolic health, and muscle being a major store of glucose, it can help us regulate our blood sugar, and that ties in with unregulated blood sugar ties in with a way increased risk of age related diseases. So we literally help ourselves from head to toe when we build muscle, including our brain health, lowering the risk of things like dementia. So it's incredible stuff. It's just how we get more and more people to be able to do this safely and see the kind of gains that my parents have.
And chat to me about the psychological confidence changes that you've seen as a result of weight training in your parents.
I mean, I love to see it. I just love to see it. I was telling somebody the other day, a classic example. We had a couple of guys around who were helping change our dishwasher, swap our dishwasher over, and they were struggling to get the door off the dishwasher. So I phoned my dad, and he came in from next door, and my dad starts, jiggling it around, and then he basically heaved the door off the dishwasher, and up in the air it went, and they were absolutely dumbstruck. He's 81 years old, and he was throwing it around like it was a feather. And he has had so many situations. He's come back and giggled because he was running up the steps of Waitrose the other day, and a lady stepped back at the top and went, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe what I've just seen." I think the just the sight of an 81-year-old man holding his big shopping bags and running up the stairs was really quite something for her, and he gets a real kick out of that. But for my mum, I just see hope. It's like the spark has come back into her life because she's not facing this just indefinite decline, and she was scared about that. And she's still got a long way to go. She wants to be able to walk for at least 15 minutes unsupported,
Okay.
but she's doing it. She's improving all the time, and I just think it has given them that quality of life back that they were really looking for. And it's just a wonderful thing to see.
And do you think that aging well, as it's not just a buzzword now anymore? We're getting beyond that now. People are realizing it's not just your biological age; it's the quality of life as you get older, as opposed to just the number. That
Yeah.
we're slowly but surely bringing people into the awareness space of what it truly means to age well now. That it's that the
Yes.
quality of life as you go through that aging process, and being strong is one of the key components for that.
Yeah, and we've had the age of the biohacker where, we're seeing people who are really trying to push the boundaries of longevity and live into their hundreds. And I'm sure there's some out there that think they're going to live forever. And there's also been that kind of unhelpful age, I think, of having, scientists and doctors of different persuasions going on to podcasts and influencers, and telling people not to eat this, and to eat almonds are bad for you, and apples are bad for you, and all these kind of confusing, complicated messages. And I think we've really stepped away from the basics, and I'm hoping they're starting to come in to focus again now, that it's really very simple. If we want to age well, and aging well being about a quality of life for life, then we need to rebuild our muscle in some cases and maintain that muscle mass as best we can. And we just need to eat natural foods as much as we can as well, staying away from the processed stuff and the sugary drinks and that kind of thing. And these two things, we've got sleep and stress and so on in there as well, but those two components will really propel you forward in life. And all the other, chat about what supplements to take, this, that, and the next thing, it's all well and good, but let's not take away from the basics, those core basics.
And have your parents made any dietary changes or improvements to their diet? Because we know as people get older, they tend to eat less. They tend to eat less protein. Their appetite reduces, which all obviously plays a role in muscle function as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have always eaten really well. They are great cooks, and they followed really a Mediterranean diet, but they have upped their protein. So they now will ensure they're having protein as the center of every meal, kind of thing. Um, but they've cooked from scratch. They've had their meat and 2, 3 veg or whatever, and salads and this, that, and the next thing. So there's just always been that basic home cooked diet that I think has served them very well. And again, just uncomplicated, but they've got their protein in there, they've got their fiber, they don't eat a ton of sugar, and they have up their protein, and hopefully they're doing what they can really to preserve their health.
If people want to follow the YouTube series or to have a look at your Instagram account, tell us where they can follow it again.
Okay, well, the YouTube channel is the Honest channel, and the series is Rebuilding Mum and Dad. And on Instagram, I am at Honest Clare, Clare, and I'd be delighted to see you there.
Well, Claire, keep up the good work. The more people we can get shouting from the rooftops about weight training and aging and protein and all of the above, the healthier we're going to live as a society. So it's great to have you on. I really appreciate it. Folks, that is it for another episode of Real Health with me, Karl Henry. As ever, you know where we are, at Karl Henry PT on Instagram, Real Health at independent.ie and on the Irish Independent website. And we'll see you next week for more Real Health. Slán go fóill.